Damn, Ingenious made the beat? Yo, welcome to another episode of the Coach Life Podcast Radio. I'm, of course, your host, the Prince of Positivity, Coach Steve. Join with me, as always, my co-pilot, partner in crime, Coach Luna. How we doing, Brody?
Blessed. You know what I'm saying, man? I've been looking forward to this one, dog. I've been wanting to go ahead and get this one in. I felt like we've been itching since our last pod to get back going. So it feels good
Yes,
to
sir.
get back in it.
And we're a little light today. We're a little light today, but I think
Yeah,
our topic is pretty heavy that we'll be able to cover the gaps right now, for sure.
I think so. We covered, man.
Oh,
We
yeah.
got somebody else with us at all
Yes,
times.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's get into our topic right away. Well, before we get into our topic, actually, I want to share something real quick. My son had a karate tournament this past weekend, and the mindset that he had in this tournament, I had never seen my son this laser focused before.
And
This
like,
laser focused, bro. I saw my son turn up a level that he probably never seen himself turn up before. He competed in three events. One is basics, where they pretty much just do basic punches, kicks, and blocks. They want to see your form from start to finish. So they have you do it 5 times and see how well your form is from start to finish. Beautiful technique, beautiful form, just calm, cool, and collected. Just the kid just looked like an assassin, bro. Then they do their kata, which is pretty much a combination of punch, kicks, and blocks, different types of strikes and blocks, um, showcasing pretty much like an art and showcasing almost in like an art form, right?
like that Brazilian style of martial arts type deal.
Not necessarily. This is more so kind of like you seen Tai Chi.
Yeah,
So think of forms as almost like in that form of Tai Chi, where it's
gotcha.
just showing you it's showing you the form, it's showing you the rhythm, it's showing you the technique, it's showing you pretty much all this movement in a certain combination. Poised, calm, cool, collected, just from start to finish. The kid was just laser focused. Then we get into the kumite, which is sparring. And the kid again fought a tall dude, closed the gaps, was getting in tight, making good shots, getting good angles on him and everything. He was moving again, calm, cool, collected. The level of capacity that he went up was insane. Was absolutely insane. I never seen him have this kind of focus before. So, shout out to my son Nate. Did a great job. He competed in
Big
three
time.
events, three gold medals, bro. Three first place medals.
Hey, man, that's right here. That ain't easy to do now.
No, sir. It's not. It takes a different type of focus.
Absolutely.
The reason I wanted to bring this one up though is because in a previous tournament, he didn't have that same focus. He didn't have that same mentality. It was there, but not like this. This was different. There was more work that was put in initially. Coming up to this particular tournament, he's taken an additional class for the past 4 or 5 Saturdays just to make sure that he's ready. He's he's practiced more at home. He's asked questions more from his senseis and then also from me from previous experience, being doing mixed martial arts. So he's starting to really, really come into his own.
Coach, hold on. So you said he's seeking? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir.
Hmm.
He's seeking knowledge. And when you're seeking knowledge, your capacity can change, right?
Absolutely.
You don't stay stagnant. And that definitely goes in line with our topic for today. What's your capacity? What has been your capacity? And then I want to ask the question, do we think capacity, your personal capacity is fixed or is it finite? I mean, is it infinite? So is it infinite or is it finite? I also want to ask the question, if it is finite, then why do we tire out so quick in multiple different facets of our life? If it's fixed, then what do we do to make sure that we are the best in the areas that we need to be in? And how much time and effort are we pouring into those different, cups of life to help us move from one point to the next point? So I want to start off with the question first, because we talked about this very briefly in pre-show. And I want to get your perspective on this, Coach Luna, because when we talk about definition, what do you feel the definition first of capacity means to you?
Well, from a general sense, capacity is basically in my brain of brain is like, all right, for example, this container. This container's capacity is as much as it can be filled all the way to the top. That's the capacity for this container. From the human aspect, I feel like, especially going through the educational system that we went through, a lot of people's capacity for learning uh, topped out after graduation of high school or whatever highest level they may have completed school or education in general. Um, but in my opinion, I feel like capacity is limitless. And the reason behind that is the amount of information that you can learn is limitless. Now, the as much as you can retain and apply, that's upon the person and their choices from acquiring that knowledge they're from. You know what I'm saying? So as far as the capacity, it's to me it's limitless. It's kind of funny that we're talking about this because this past weekend, Sean Lewis, who was one of our previous guests on the pod, we were working out on Saturday, and he brought up this analogy that it resonated with me very well. He was like, growing up when we were playing Grand Theft Auto, what did we all love to do? We didn't like playing Grand Theft Auto just because it was Grand Theft Auto. We loved being able to put in cheat codes because the cheat codes let us have this infinite ability to do everything within the game, right? And he asked the question to all of us when we were lifting. He was like, "What is the cheat code in life?" And I'm sitting there, I'm kind of perplexed because I'm like, man, if I felt like I knew this answer, I think we would all be in a different place, right?
Absolutely.
But he answered it. He was like, it's in the books. I thought about it. And he explained, he was like, you got to think about it. These people that write these books, whatever the book may be about, these people have went and done all of the research, no matter how many hours, no matter how many experiences they've done, they've done all these things to compile it into a book that's given to you so that you can learn from these things and apply. And then it came to me, it dawned upon me, I'm like, man, God Almighty decided he wanted to go ahead and communicate with us through what medium?
The word,
The book.
the book. Exactly.
And it just came and it clicked. I was like, Sean, you are a genius. Because that makes sense. Because for a book to be read, you have to actively do things to open this book, read what's going on. Like you have to actively apply what you're trying to do to read.
Work needs to be applied.
Or you have to. There's no way the book is going to be read if you just look at it.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to go off on a tangent about audiobooks and none of that. But because that has nothing to do
Still
with this,
requires work, man.
but it
You
still
still have
requires
to,
work.
right.
You know what I'm saying? And that to me, that capacity, it's all based on self too. I think we put a cap on ourselves too, based off of labels that we want to give ourselves, and we give ourselves that excuse to be like, well, I can't do this because I suffer from this, or I have this, or it makes me feel this, whatever the case may be. We naturally put a cap on our capacity.
I love the perspective on this because in a lot of cases, yes, we 100% do. We put a cap on our capacity in multiple different areas. And let's break this down into those five buckets of life. We got family, you got your career or your job, you have your hobbies, your passions, you have your friends, you know, so your own social circle, and then you, right? So you have these five buckets. And based on what you're saying is we have an infinite amount of water that we can pour into all of these. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so. I think so to an extent of what God wants you to do and how far He wants you to go within your roles. But how far that is isn't up to us to really just know. You know what I'm saying? I feel like all those things can they start to balance out and things become more clear within your roles when you begin to acknowledge who you're following as the individual. And
Hmm.
because if you look at all five of those things, you naturally, as a human, as a person that has at least one role within all five of those things, you can easily become what's the word, overwhelmed with, man, I'm not being a great uncle, or I'm not being a great husband, or I'm not being a great coach, or I'm not being a great this. I can naturally find where I'm lacking in all those areas. And typically where I find where I'm lacking in those areas is really a lack of faith, or a lack of where my relationship is with God, because where my relationship is with Him, He fills all those spaces, because I you naturally can't be 100% every single thing every single at one time. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Absolutely.
possible. It's not possible. So to fill those capacities, though, you have to go ahead and be active in your following to become the better leader, if that makes sense.
That 100% makes sense. So again, I love where this is going because now I have another question for you. So
Yeah.
based off of what you're saying is, would it make sense to say that those five categories, and let's say again, we start off with our own capacity. We have that like we're all glasses of water, right? All of those are glasses of water. And the U bucket is filled to a certain capacity. Where do you feel like you get that refill from? Which I think you already alluded to it right now. Is the
100%
word.
the word. Um, Man, I can just dive completely into this, but like you, it's like your mind is renewed daily. Your cup has the opportunity to refill, um, and you
Put a
learn not to drag things from yesterday into today.
put a pin and you having the opportunity to refill. Let's put a pin in that because I want to go back to that. So you taking this cup and now pouring it into family, pouring into career, pouring into my hobbies and passions, pouring into my friends and my social circles. For a lot of people, they they want that to be even, and you just alluded to that a few minutes ago. Like it's never going to be balanced, right? We know that that's never going to be balanced. You're always going to feel like you could be doing more in one of these areas. So, based on that capacity that you have from that initial, you're waking up in the morning, you only have a finite amount of mental, emotional, and spiritual energy when you wake up in the morning. How much of that time has people poured into these different, sections of their life and then felt empty and felt like they didn't have enough to pour into either themselves or they've poured too much in one of these particular areas and they're looking for it to come back some kind of way.
Coach, for 32 years, I was like that for sure. And thank God, year 33, he helped open my eyes to start shifting the priorities. And, at age 34, now I have a consistent, routine of how I do everything. And it's not just like to toot my own horn at all, but it was like God put it in my spirit to shift how I did everything. And I told you, like, my schedule now, I'm waking up at 3:30 in the morning. I'm lifting at 4:30 in the morning. I'm, on my way to work, I'm listening to the word. I'm in two or three plans right now that I'll listen to the sermon, the day scripture for the day, or
Hmm.
the verses for the day. Then I'll go to the Old Testament, do the same thing. So I'm filling myself with His word first thing in the morning, and then as soon as I get to the gym, I'm now pouring into my cup because this is the time where you know some people can go ahead and say, like, for some people the gym is almost like a sanctuary for yourself, because in there the resistance that you got to fight, the battle, the discipline to get in there every single day, the willpower to, it's 4:30 in the morning. Like, let's keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot um that comes along with those things. So
Absolutely.
what's kind of been revealed to me was flip the order of things. And it's not selfish, because the first thing I'm doing is I'm giving my time to God. And then I'm pouring into myself. And you know what's crazy, coach? I legitimately thought I was going to be too tired to handle this type of schedule, because as soon as I get done with lifting, I go straight to track practice. And then from track practice, I start work. And then from work, I, like for today, I jump on a pod.
Hmm.
Then it's rinse and repeat tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And what you'll discover is, and man, it's beautiful. Somebody told me this a long time ago. It's always stuck. God will never give you a life where He's not needed, and where He's not valuable, where He's not seen. So when we consume ourselves with the lives that we start identifying with the role or the profession that we're in, we start consuming that identity of that profession itself.
Hmm.
You'll find ways to substitute God. And then you'll wonder why anxiety has popped up, or depression, or whatever the case may be. Those characteristics are not of God. You read the scripture, there's nothing in there that says, I will make you anxious, I will make you depressed. There's nothing in there. It is the complete opposite.
So when we talk about those areas of our life, and you said again, it requires work to do those things. I think again, like you said, it definitely requires that effort. You're consistently pouring into something.
Have to.
You're consistently pouring into something. The challenge again is, like you said, is knowing when, where, and how much to pour without neglecting yourself or making excuses.
You'll find
That's
those,
hard.
like, you'll find that time, and those that you'll find all those things it literally gets added onto you. like I said, you create the
Hmm.
anxiety because you're trying to do too much. God has a capacity on God have a capacity on you yourself. Say, hey, this is as much as I can give you right now. This is as much as you can handle right
Exactly. I was gonna say I think it's more so this is how much you can handle. It's like I don't think he will give you an infinite amount,
now. Correct.
but you are not ready to handle all of it because your cup is only this big. And I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us have a tendency of wanting more capacity, but not understanding what comes with the more capacity. Just because you have that full cup now, you have a bigger cup now, you that can't sit in one area. That's got to be poured in all of these different areas. You can't harbor all of that energy.
Mm-hmm.
You said it best in one of our earlier pods. Again, energy is transferable, right?
Absolutely.
Supposed to be, right? Water is never meant to be held. What happens with stagnant water?
Finds its way out. It'll break through.
It'll eventually find a way to either break through, and if it can't break through, it's going to rot. It's going to dissipate. It's going to find a way to exit that area some kind of way. That's the same with your capacity. That's the same with your work. Like if you're not pouring and you're not actively doing this on a regular basis, it'll find another way out. The way it finds its way out though may be in a negative connotation though. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck in the rat race. They get stuck in the trap. I don't feel like I'm doing enough, but I can't do enough. Perfect example. I had said this before when I first started, working at the company that I'm working at now. When I was working in dispatch, it was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I never felt like I poured enough into my family. Felt like I was missing a lot. Was not there as enough as I should be, right? Missing practices, missing, little events, missing birthday parties, not going to stuff because I have to have this laptop handcuffed to my wrist, just in case something happens. For a long time, it took me some time to kind of reshift my purpose, just like you said, figure out exactly what I'm really pouring into, what's really going to give me back that time. And you really find out what's taking away from your time. For a lot of us, when you look at that personal bucket, we keep and retain a whole lot of water. And I'm gonna say water right now as for the sake of capacity or energy right now. We keep and retain a lot of water. And what happens when you retain a whole lot of water in your body? You blow up. You feel uncomfortable. You start to not feel like yourself, right? You can't move. You ever drink a whole bottle of water and then went to go lay down? It's like the worst feeling in the world, bro. You feel like you're about to drown. So if you know that that's an uncomfortable feeling and you know that the way to get rid of it is to work, to do something about it, why do you think people don't put that effort, that concerted effort in, even when they feel that pressure of I should be doing something?
Um, it's funny that you asked that question because what I was about to say kind of ties into this question already. I think it has to be. I think you have to reorganize the importance of your roles. I think, and I'm not even. I don't even think I know this for a fact. I think a lot of us, we we give so much of ourselves to our employers that when we get home, we have zero left to give to our families. We have zero left to give to our friends. We have zero left to give to God. And any one of those three cannot be lacking, especially the latter. And
Hmm.
until you can, and I said this in the previous pod, until you can take a step back, you'll finally and pivot. You'll finally realize that this step back is really a step into the right direction. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of us can get in this rat race where we're moving constantly, but not realize we're on the wrong path. And that to me is more dangerous than the idea of being afraid to say, you know what, man, this job is taking way too much from me. It's it's robbing me of my peace. It's robbing me of my family. It's robbing me of any of the roles that God has placed me, that
Mm-hmm.
God has placed me. Not that I applied for a job and this happened to be the role that I'm in. God, when God gave you this wife, when God gave you this child, when God gave you this mother, when those are God given roles, right? When I start finding reasons why I can't fulfill those roles or why I'm not putting time in those roles, I have to reshift my organization. You are the CEO, the CFO, the all those FOs, EOs,
All the C level.
you're all those when it comes to the ability to change areas of your life. Now, how how you do it,
Mm.
that that is where things can get real fishy because you as a person you think that you will have. I can just go ahead and say, you know what, I'm about to change my life today. You know what, I'm going to go quit my job tomorrow. Okay, but who are you going to lean on in this process? You're not going to be strong enough to handle it yourself. You're not.
Facts. Let's start there. Before you go into that, I wanna bring up something that a buddy of mine said at breakfast this past weekend. We were talking about this same topic, and he made the comment of how do you go from this much capacity to this much capacity? And I so love that he thought of it that way. And I said, before we start talking about going from here to here, let's ask the question first. The capacity that you have right now, how have you used that?
Mm.
How have you used this? Because if, like you said, if you're not effectively using what you already have, giving you more is just going to be more of a mess, right? It's just like somebody that can't manage money, right? You gave me a couple $1 million when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. I'd be homeless underneath the street right now. It's like that's super simple. So giving somebody more of something is not necessarily the fix all. It's being more intentional with how you use it, I think, will get you much further to do that. So the question is, how do you do those things? What are some of those principles to get to from here to here? And I think one of the biggest things that you just said was setting daily priorities. Not everything is going to be equal every single day, but there are some things that you can start equalizing in your life to make it somewhat simpler for you. Take some of the thinking out. A lot of us don't do stuff because we overthink. So if we have a set priority schedule, that takes a lot of the thinking out now. You don't have to think about the meals when you pre-plan all the meals. You don't have to think about the workout plans when you already planned the workout plans. You don't have to think about, what else I need to do for the next day if you've already kind of pre-planned what the week is going to look like. Again, figuring those things out will drastically take at least 50% of that pressure off of you. For some of us, we don't want to put the effort, that concerted effort into thinking and planning and doing those things because that part, coach, is requires the work part. That's the work part. And I'm not comfortable with the work part.
So I want to go back to what your boy was talking about with the capacity is this much.
Mm-hmm.
I got a better question. Well, I wouldn't say it's a better question. I got another question on top of what you asked. Are you grateful for the capacity that you currently have?
Facts.
Because
Facts.
to me, there's no different than the third, fourth string. guy on the bench saying, "Man, I should be out there. That should be me out there. Why aren't you out there?" Let's answer that question. What areas are you lacking in to where you're not out there, to why your capacity isn't more? And I think that has a lot to do with our gratitude. Are
I'm
you
taking
thankful for? Are you? When's the last time you really been thankful for the things that you currently have? You know, it's written that He won't give you more if you can't handle what you already have. Because what's that going to do? That's going to bring unintended harm. God is
hmm
not here to harm you. So why would He put you in a situation where He would? He
absolutely.
even took it a step further. When temptation enters your door, He already gave you an exit. You know what I'm saying? So these things are written for us to know this, but if you don't read these things to instill these principles and daily reflect on these principles, eat the word every single day, those ideas and those thoughts become more and more fleeting.
I wrote this down. Mark 1, verse 35. The importance of refilling spiritually before pouring out.
Mm. Sometimes I can't give because I'm not.
So if you're not where you need to be spiritually, it's really hard to pour out the way that you could pour out for somebody else, right? That can put in that concerted effort in place to actually do those things for somebody. It's funny because I, I had a training that I did with a dispatcher, and she asked me a question about a problem that she was having. And I laughed and I said, I wish they were all this easy. Fast forward, she's now training other dispatchers right now. And they asked her a question about something. And she said, in that training, I wish they were all this easy. There comes a point where the things will get easy for you, but how much work did you put in and how much work did you do to now make the situation seem like this is so minuscule? The perfect example, people that drive a car. When you first started driving, most people didn't have the same type of experiences, especially the experience that I had. My grandfather let me drive in the backyard or in the back of in the back or of the alleyway and everything and little parking lots and stuff like that. So put me on his lap and let me just, drive around a little bit. So some of us had that experience where we had a little bit of experience before we started driving a car. But for a lot of people, they haven't had that experience. So the first time going to driver's ed, that was hard. I still know people right now that don't drive on the expressway because they never felt comfortable driving on the expressway. That one time going on the expressway was really hard and they didn't know how to merge. And we live in Chicago. It's crazy. They ain't trying to get hit. So they like, I'm not driving on the expressway. I'm just take the streets everywhere. Well, you just closed yourself off from a learning experience that could vastly help you right now. All because we didn't want to put the work in initially to move in that direction. Now, again, that's something very minuscule, but you can apply that to any area of your life, any area of your life. I watch people at work, at their job right now, get frustrated at some situation that's happening right now that their manager is probably looking at and saying, this is childish, this is something super simple that's easy to fix, so on and so forth. There's situations that you got that everybody has dealt with with friends where they hear a story from what a friend said is what this is what they're going through right now, and you listen to that story and you're like, you shouldn't be going through something like that because all you have to do is do this and this and that those things wouldn't happen, right? It sounds easy for you, but it's not. It's easy for you because you've gone through the work that's required to make it easy. A lot of people don't do that for themselves. And then they look at the cup and like, I don't know what to do. I feel overwhelmed. I don't know how to make this pour into some of these other areas. I don't know how to accept the pour for myself because we haven't been able to spiritually pour back into ourselves. We haven't been able to actually take real inventory of what we're doing with our time. And you know what you're doing with your time. Like this ain't a like you for some of us, we don't even have to write it down. You already know you're not doing anything with your time, or that you know that you're not using it as effectively as you could use it. So, question for you when it comes to all of this, when we start talking about capacity, do you feel like in most cases people aren't investing their capacity in meaningful areas, or are they just wasting them on distractions and excuses? What do you think is the biggest pull away from actually putting that work in? Just
The
not
big,
investing, or just literally just wasting the time because it
biggest
requires the work?
the biggest pull away is just being honest with yourself. Um, it's hard to identify what areas are um it's hard to identify what areas need help or need areas that need fixing if me, Steve, Wash, everybody, if we all do the exact same thing. Um, you know what I'm saying? It's hard to grasp that concept of what needs to really be done if I'm not I'm going to continue to say it. If I'm not diving in and reading my instructions, reading my manual, it's hard to it's what my boy said on that one podcast. He said you don't come to God like clean. You know what I'm saying? Like the Bible and the Word is a mirror, and it shows you that you're dirty. And that to me is like the perfect analogy to understand what it is that's going on when you read Scripture. You know, Jesus said he doesn't come to heal the healed. He comes to heal the sick, those
Mhm.
who are sick. You know what I'm saying? And we are all sick in our own little ways. Um, and to be able to say what it is or what are those things that are taking me or keeping my attention, to be able to identify those things, it's like kind of like Grand Theft Auto, it puts you on a side quest, and you don't realize that the side quest actually is putting you on the grand mission. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
okay, this is showing me that I need to fix this area. I read, you know, Ecclesiastes and it's talking about this, or I read Proverbs and this verse said something about this, and I literally just felt this nudging me to do this today. And those little things are just like just those little inches and little steps that continue to show you, like, man, okay, really is working on me. And then you start looking at the fruits. It's amazing, bro, when you just legitimately just start every single day, not one, every single day. I notice I didn't say how much. Start with just a little. Your capacity may just be this much, just to start. But then that little urge in you that wanted you to start opening is going to say, hey, read more. Or somebody comes up to you and notices what you're reading and says, what you reading? Can you tell me about it? Just little things like that, bro. It's just like, man, just I
It
can't.
opens it up for you.
My level of understanding and looking at life has changed so much within the past 365 days because I've realized in our humanity we try to find ways to explain things in the way that we try to understand, that we think we will know, and not understanding that we're a byproduct of creation. So the more I understand the original source and try to understand the original source, the more I'm going to get connected to the original source so I can do what I was originally purposed to do.
I don't, again, I agree with you 100%, 100%. And I think a lot of people have issue finding that for themselves or seeing that for themselves because of a mental trigger, something that's stopping them emotionally, mentally, physically from making the jump to get to where they need to get to. They feel overwhelmed, like you said, they feel anxious, they feel discouraged because of some trigger.
Okay. So we know what's on this side of this challenge because I've said no this many times. I
Hmm.
know what's on this side. What's on the other side of my yes? What's on the other side of the opposite answer of what I've always applies, of what I've
Well,
always
well, coach, that's that other end of that yes comes with stress. That's gonna
because
make me feel,
you're thinking
shut me
about
down.
you're thinking about it. Faith has no thinking with it. Faith is knowing. My spirit is saying to do it, so I follow through. My human
Hmm.
capacity will not understand God's purpose. We're not meant to. It goes back to what we talked about last week with Braylon when I told you what my pastor said in Psalms with the lantern around my feet and not the flashlight. The lantern around my feet to guide my steps. Because I know the path that I'm on, I know that my steps will be guided. Because if I had a flashlight and I seen that tiger run across the street, or I seen this run across the street, or I
You're
seen
gonna
this coming
stop
out, I would stop. But do I trust this path, this lantern? Do I trust this light? Is this enough light for me? Is this light enough capacity for me? He gave you that light. So, yes, it's enough. It's enough right now because that's all you can handle.
because you can't see anything more than what's in front of you right now. Because if I showed you more of what's out there, you're going to stop moving. Those triggers affect all of us, right? Everybody has one of those triggers that affect us in some kind of way, shape, or form that stop us from moving forward. But those shouldn't be used as excuses to neglect your personal growth or any type of responsibility.
You know, that's the difference between discipline and motivation. Discipline
100%.
is no matter what. Motivation is when I feel like.
100%. I got motivated right now. It's like, again, motivation is gas in the car.
The fart joint.
Right. It's it's finite.
Exactly.
It's finite, bro. It's mad finite. It is what it is. But when we talk about that, again, you're gonna hear people say all the time, like, shit, I said it myself. Pouring into my family and my career was hard. So I'm pouring into my family and balancing my career at the same time is like that's hard. You said it a few minutes ago, like people go to work, they get, expel all this energy at work and then get home and then they don't have anything left for family. I hated that feeling. Absolutely hated that feeling. Especially anyone that's worked a job where that's all you do is talk all day. Like if you're a salesman or like all you do is like you're in communications all day, being in dispatch, you talk all day on the phone. Last thing you want to do is come home and tell somebody else about your day and everything else that's going on. You don't have that quote unquote energy. But again, capacity is flexible. It's not
Mm.
choosing, it's not choosing where to invest and not waiting, and it's about choosing where to invest and not waiting essentially until you feel ready to give that side of you or give that energy of you.
Sounds like you're saying proactive versus reactive.
100%, man. You have to be proactive, but you don't get to that point until you realize it's finite. And I think that's where you start to realize that now I have to be intentional. There's that word again, right? That you have to be intentional about the poor because now the poor can't go just willy-nilly into all these different categories. The book that I'm reading right now, it's called The Courage to Be Disliked.
I think,
And I think I sent it to you in one of our chats, but it's one of those books that tells you again, there's gonna be times in your life where you're gonna be disliked. People that work at a high level in some capacity are not
make,
liked by a lot of people.
yep, make these guys feel small, even though
Exactly.
these guys aren't even worried about these guys.
Exactly.
If
They're not
anything,
even on their
got
radar.
to catch up.
Right. They're not even remotely on their radar. So, perfect example, Michael Jordan. Anybody that knows Michael Jordan personally or has had stories like those horror stories that you've heard about Michael Jordan being like the worst person ever, like outside of basketball, like that's who he was, right? But this guy worked to a peak level day in and day out when it came to the game of basketball. You couldn't tell him nothing about basketball because he knew it all about basketball. That's where he poured the vast majority of his capacity. No one understood that level of intensity until a Kobe that had that same level of intensity, right? Certain people are going to click where it's like, I understand, I get it, that makes sense. I can move like that. Now that just elevated his game. Too many of us don't even know how to use the little bit of capacity that we have.
Yeah,
And
won't.
then I want more. I want more. And I don't want to necessarily have to do the work that's required to pour into these other areas of my life because I want to get better. I want to do better. I want to see better for myself. But that does require me to do some things that makes me feel uncomfortable, that makes me feel insecure, that makes the mirror very clear in front of me right now. And I don't necessarily want to face that right now. So we stalemate. So do you feel like, again, in these type of situations, that when adversity shows up and dictates, does that help dictate whether or not you show up for your responsibilities for some people? Do you feel like adversity is needed to help you show up the way that you need to show up?
That's like asking, can you get stronger without resistance training? It's impossible. You have to have it. And in a sense, I think it's that's kind of like our checkpoints to know whether or not I am growing in this area.
Mhm.
If I pray for uh, to be less prideful, and I'm actively working on these things, I'm reading on, you know, pride, pride, and how to work on these things. I'm reading scripture and these things. I'm reading books about it and all these other things. The second I get a um, an event that brings up about this ego or whatever the case may be, um, how do I respond to it? If I've always been a somewhat arrogant person, I'm still very arrogant. I'm not learning my lesson about pride. Clearly, I'm not,
Mhm. Still there.
because the opposite of pride is what? Humility. So if you're not an actively thankful person, how are you working on your pride? Pride means less me, more everyone else.
100%.
You know
And
what I'm saying? I
what
have to get rid of those
what
things.
does Jesus ask us to do?
Serve others.
Okay. That
Neighbor.
part.
Love thy neighbor.
That part. That part, right?
It is literally, and again, coach, we all know that. but we don't apply it. And it tells us how to apply these things. It tells us legitimately. It's verbatim what how to, the do's, the don'ts.
Coach, you just finished Proverbs a little while ago,
No, I'm
right?
actually in Proverbs right now. I just finished Songs of Solomon.
I wrote this one down too. Proverbs 24:10. If you faint in a day of adversity, your strength is small.
Oof,
How many of us have had a struggle and immediately said, knew better, knew better, had the similar struggle before, knew better, and still went left?
plenty.
Why?
You will always go back to your level of training,
But what if you didn't have any training?
and you will fall back to your default settings. And your right now, your default settings are that what you've always
Retreat.
done. You exactly.
Retreat.
A frontline soldier doesn't just get granted being a frontline soldier. You don't
You
just become an Army Ranger. You don't just become a Navy SEAL. These are the baddest of the baddest.
I'm so glad you said that, coach, because my next point is actually talking about a show that I just started watching a little while ago. Now it was one of my favorite shows right now.
The Navy SEAL thing on Fox.
Special Forces.
Yeah, with Cam Newton.
Love that show, bro. I
I watched
love that show.
an episode and I was captivated for real. I was like, I don't remember what day I was watching, but I was just like, yo, this is kind of dope. This is
This
kind
is
of
it is
live.
beyond dope. It is beyond dope because it puts you in that real life, real safe scenario, right? Even though it's safe, you're working with pros who know what they're doing. They will take care of you. You don't have to worry, but you will worry. You will question yourself. You will not do stuff. And if you've not watched this show, it is about four special force operators from the SBS, SAS, Navy SEALs, former Rangers. Like these guys are the elite of the elite. And when they say they go out and do these things, like they go and do these things with the celebrities that are chosen to come along the show. All of these celebrities claim to have all this mental toughness, this mental fortitude, this discipline that's rock hard, and all of a sudden, soon as they get put, in a situation, fold. Fold. Some of them, again, it's only for 7 days, coach. It's only for 7 days. They don't even make it. Some of them don't even make it 24 hours. I watched the in the second episode. It was the second episode of the second season. Tara Reid had her 40 pound naps, her 40 pound rough sack on, and she went to the she went to one of the DSs and told them, "I don't want to carry this anymore, and I think they need to be fitted to the size of the person." The DS said, "You're carrying everything that you need if you were to go out into the field. It's 40 pounds. We're not making this lighter. You're carrying the same weight as everybody else."
Coach,
I know where you're going, coach. Give it to me. Go ahead, drop them dimes, bro. I know you
why
got it.
why do we feel like we have the audacity to tailor make our struggles?
Man,
Your struggles are already tailor made for you. Again, he will never give you more than you can't handle. Big Crit said one of my favorite verses of all time. And he said, like, God give me bigger shoulders so I can, carry these
to
boulders.
carry more. Right, exactly.
You
Yep.
know? Keep keep them coming because I know that this is my areas of growth.
Exactly.
You're not going to throw anything up in front of me that's going to intentionally cause harm. And when you think about that with the girl saying this, no, it needs to be fitted for this, you're trying to tailor make your own struggle when it's really this is the struggle that you need to face.
Absolutely.
That little adversity, that area of uncomfortableness, that's the area that we need to fix. That's the area that needs fixing. That God is saying you can't. You obviously don't know that you need this fixing. So here it is.
Growth happens through discipline, not just the desire to want to change. So you got to go away from the motivation and into being disciplined and into action. That's the second point from our how to, right? Setting those principles for yourself and driving the motivation for yourself, not waiting for that motivation, being disciplined instead. The last point to the how, which is something that Jesus did a lot of and made it a point to do. Rest, but don't quit. That back part is just as important as the front part. Rest, but don't quit.
Sounds like
G-
active recovery.
100%, man. 100%. You know that going to the gym, bro. We're not finna go in there and do arms and back and and shoulders 6 days straight.
Absolutely not.
You might as well go ahead and just take those off and put them off to the side. You're not using them no more for the rest of the week. It's over with, bro. It is over with. Jesus intentionally rested, would remove himself from crowds of people so that he could rest. But that didn't stop him from doing his mission. That it shouldn't stop you, even though you're tired. Take that time to rest. Nobody's telling you not to rest. And I know a lot of times when you hear us on these pods, and I know especially when Luna gets fired up about hitting this gym, he's telling you to go, go, go. I can tell you in all certainty, Coach Luna understands the importance of hitting the reset button, understands the importance of taking that time to rest and recover so that we can be at peak levels. Are you, and ask yourself this question, Coach Life fam, are you resting to recharge or are you resting to avoid responsibility?
Oh,
Ask that question. And then you know the answer to this. Nobody has to say no, we don't know conviction from me or Coach Luna. You know the answer to this. Are you resting to really recharge to get yourself back to a level where you can continue to perform the way you need to perform? Or are you resting to avoid doing shit? I asked that question because there's somebody that I had a conversation with, and we were talking about, you know, going back to school and learning and doing stuff like that. And the way that they talked about not doing stuff sounded almost like Christmas morning for a 5-year-old.
mm.
You know how a 5-year-old sounds when it's
Oh,
Christmas morning, bro? Like,
it's
it's
Christmas.
Christmas. It's like, let's go. Right? You seen that meme with a kid opened up a can of beans and was like freaking out because he got a can of beans. I got a can of beans. Like, he was excited about that. How he talked about not working was exactly how a kid would sound having a Christmas morning. And
So
that's sad.
where's the resistance in that? Where's the growth? Where's the
It,
opportunity? Where is going to be the growth? Because I guarantee you, if he's comfortable in that, he's comfortable in every other area too.
you're not going to grow anywhere.
How
You're
you do
not.
one thing is how you do everything.
So I got to ask some reflecting questions because we coming up on the back end of this. And I want to ask a couple questions for everybody out there. And shout out to Amanda for giving me some of this feedback and asking some of those reflective questions out to the Coach Life fam out there. I want you to think about where you spend the majority of your time and your energy. Take inventory, write it down. I challenge you to write it down where you spend the majority of your time and energy and be honest with yourself. If 8 hours of it is sitting in the bed watching TV and watching, reality TV, then that's what it is, yo. 8 hours watching TV. You got to start somewhere. We got to know where the inventory actually is, right? Don't try to make the numbers look good for us because we ain't looking at it. Just put it on the paper for you. Do you take the time to recharge spiritually, mentally, and physically? Do you honestly take that time to recharge in those areas? And if you do, or if you don't, are you using that time to avoid doing any work spiritually, mentally, or physically? Think about that. And then if you are you giving one of these areas too much attention or no attention at all? Last question that I have is, do you wait until you feel like doing it to take action, or do you commit regardless?
You gotta commit.
Have to.
Coach, it's funny that I had this conversation, and I referred a lot to the working out aspect because again, this is kind of like that started that the snowball for
Mm-hmm.
myself, along with reading my daily scripture. Like
Spiritual, yeah.
they both were coming in at the same time. But I get people that ask me like, bro, like what you doing now? How'd you develop this plan that you? I was like, bro, constant. Every single time that you may work with me, my Monday may have changed because I'm just taking or adding or taking to this or doing something completely different because my new level of challenge needs to be challenged. It needs to be
Mm.
met. My capacity has went up a little bit, so I need that more of a challenge.
You got a
But
bigger cup, bro.
2 years ago, when you asked me I was 20 minutes of jump roping, and I still have pictures. I couldn't handle jogging, and now I do a 10K every Wednesday. I could not handle jogging in the summer of 2023. It hurt
Mm.
like hell. So I got pictures of just taking pictures of my watch for 20 minutes of jump roping, doing the Smith machine, just doing the motion because in my brain, what the Holy Spirit was telling me is instill the characteristic of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Learn the characteristic of discipline. Do what it means to be disciplined. And I will go ahead and take care of the things that you're worried about in the other parts of your life.
Facts.
But learn what it means to be disciplined. And then it's funny. It's not funny how it happens, but as a result, discipline started pouring into different areas of my life that I never was able to know how to do. I've been openly on this pod about it a million times, but I never had this long of a streak without drinking alcohol. Never. As a full drink, like the day I had my first sip of alcohol
Mm-hmm.
to this day forward, like I never went this long. Same thing with tobacco,
Mm-hmm.
because the characteristic of discipline had to be developed. So instead of thinking about the task of what needs to be done, think about the characteristic that needs to be sharpened.
So what you're saying, coach, is that You need to think about the person that you want to be. What does that person look like? What characteristics does that person have? And where are you lacking? Where's that gap, right?
Coach, man, I'm telling you, whoever's listening to this pod, if you have not worked out on a sensational Saturday with us, y'all need to come. Sean said this past weekend. He said, "What would be your definition of a successful life?" And he said he read this book and it said something, alluded something to the point where it's like, what would your 85-year-old self tell your current age self what success looks like?
Hmm.
And if that 85-year-old self can identify, your greater self already knows the things that want to occur. So it's almost like a reverse engineer. So you have to put yourself in the mind frame of the person you ultimately want to become by telling yourself the things that you ultimately want. Because it's upon
100%.
you, it's in your spirit for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But who do you need to become to be able to achieve those things?
Man, I'm glad that we had this conversation because I feel like there needs to be a part two to this.
Absolutely. And we might have to bring some people on for this part two.
We have to bring somebody else on for this one, and we have to have a part two on this one because I want to go deeper into the question that was asked about can that capacity be increased, and it can be. So it's funny because in the beginning of this pod, bro, I asked the question, and the first thing you said, Coach, was like that capacity is infinite. And as we kind of drill this down a little bit, we find out that it's finite, but can be refilled significantly. And not only can it be refilled, you can go from that shot glass to a full cup, from a full cup to a bigger cup to a pitcher. You can transition to these things. Now, yes, what's in that container is finite. That's only the amount that can be held in at that in that container. But that will change once you understand the pour. I think once you understand the pour, you understand how to pour and you understand where the refill is coming from, and you start being more intentional about that, you start being more disciplined about that, it is much easier to start pouring into everybody else and giving everybody that time that you didn't have before, or that capacity that you said that you didn't have before. I've watched a lot of people grow, Coach. I know you've watched a lot of people grow. You've seen their capacity change from being able to only handle this much stress to now being able to handle this much stress, right? We've been able to watch people make those transitions. So it is possible. So for anybody that says like, I don't do these things or I don't talk to these people because I'm trying to protect my mental health, or I'm trying to I'm not I don't do these kind of workouts because I don't want to mess up my shoulder, right? Or okay, I get that, but that doesn't mean don't work out. That doesn't mean don't be in those kind of conversations,
Or go get it checked.
right? Go do something about it to make it so that it's not a cop out and you're
There you
not
go.
using it as this is the cop out, right? I have an excuse. Well, so does everybody.
Man, bro,
So
I love that
does
in that dog. Cause bro, I legitimately had, I love my boy Shelby to death. But he get on my nerves because some of the things he does, he coaches me to the point where I'm just like, I don't want to hear that. Low, get to your packs. You're not getting low enough. You're not getting the full blah 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 and all this. I hear it in my head. So I got to a point where when I finally injured my back, I finally was like, and my wife tells me too, like, hey, you know, try to do the form. Focus on the form. Do the little things right. So it was like when I injured myself recently, bro, it was just like, okay, this is my reminder because I kind of went into a little ego lift for a little bit. And this was my reminder like, hey, when you go away from the plan,
This is what happens.
this is what happens. Let's reboot, restart. Let's do it right. Do it like, do it right. And let's get back on track. Don't stop. Notice I got her. I went and got 2 massages. I tried to get this thing out of me. You know what I'm saying? And it still hurts, but I just can't stop. Stopping is when you say, God, I'm good.
That's
We
enough.
stopping here. I've had enough. You can't. Discipline doesn't have that.
Learn how to manage your capacity and keep balance by setting your principles daily. Don't wait for motivation. Find discipline and learn the rest, but don't quit. I think if you can help yourself follow those key principles and stay committed to those things, even again, like I said before, if it's 8 hours of you watching TV and snacking, 30 minutes of that I'm gonna take to do, you know, 10 push-ups, 10 jumping jacks, 10 sit-ups, and 10 dips. Something. Something.
Because the when you were talking about where your source is coming from, I grabbed my phone and I typed in God is like a well. Not like a whale, like a blue
Yep.
whale,
Yep.
well, because I remember reading a scripture and it took me to Isaiah 58:11. The Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land and will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail.
That was Isaiah what?
58:11.
Can you go to Isaiah 40, 31 and read that? That's the
40.
last one that I have on my notes right now. I want you to read that one real quick.
Tapping through as fast as I can.
Oh no, no, no. We got time, bro. We got time.
I'm on 24. Almost there. Almost there. You said 40 and 30.
Isaiah 40, 31.
But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint.
That verse doesn't um say our capacity increases. It says that God renews our strength within our limits.
What is redo? What is the root word re? What does that mean again? To do it
Start
again.
again. Look, man,
Tell me.
put the work in. It's literally right there. If you have, I'm challenging anybody that has listened to this pod today. Before we cut out, I'm challenging anybody that's listened. If there's anything that you have been wanting, waiting, urging yourself to do, and you haven't done it because you're scared to do it, you think that somebody's gonna look at you funny or look at you differently. If it has anything to do with anybody else, if it has anything to do with your own insecurity in doing it, ask yourself the same question Coach Luna said. What does the successful version of you look like? And then ask yourself where the gaps are.
Hmm.
Where are the gaps? And are you capable today? Do you have the capacity today to fill the gap? Because if you're not, or if you don't, stop looking at what that future you or that successful you or that more capacity individual is. Stop looking for what that person is because you haven't been comfortable with where you are right now. So let's start being comfortable and understanding the capacity that we have right now and how to use what we have today. And then we can start worrying about expanding that capacity because it's all going to go to waste. I can give you the water, but if you can only hold 8 ounces and I'm pouring 16, that's all going on the floor. That's all going on the floor. It's all going to be wasted. It's all going to be wasted. So, Coach, before we get out of here, you got any closing things, closing remarks before we go?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to be quite frank and just be honest. The areas of which you are lacking, or where you feel like you don't understand, read, read your Bible. And coach, I don't really, I can't really read it. Okay, there are over Lord knows how many different translations in English that you can go by. It's gotten so good on the Bible app online, on the especially on the Bible app with the iPhone, that you can choose the voice of who speaks to you, the narrator. If you want somebody to have that old English type voice, like the King James version type, like that's what kind of, if you want to have at it. If you want to have a lady speak it to you, have at it. The excuses of why you don't want to dive into the word is not an availability or lack of resources. It's more of a afraid to let go of who you are to accept who
Mm,
you should be becoming. And
mm-hmm.
until you can comfortably identify that as your problem, um, you're not going to be able to have that level of humility and gratitude to accept what it is that my capacity that I'm currently given. Um, because asking why I don't have more is a clear reflection of me not being grateful. Um, because that I like for me to even think about that doesn't even cross my like I'm given what I have because this is my mission right now. And if the Lord gives me more and wants me to have more, then He will. But I also have faith and I trust that He won't give me more than I can bear and more than I can handle. And I know that because it's scripture. You know what I'm saying? And the more and more I meditate and read on those words, the more my roots of my tree grow stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger to where I'm not a shrub anymore when things come my way. Because discipline is those roots. Discipline is the difference of getting those roots tighter and tighter and tighter, tighter, tighter. Motivation is the roots do this, and Hurricane Burrow comes in, or the little derecho storm comes in and boom blows all the trees off. You're not as strong as you think.
Man.
When you discipline in the word and you discipline in Him and you practice discipline in other areas, discipline becomes what fills that cup, and that pours into everything else, bro. I am a living, walking testament of this result, and I'm so grateful for it. And as small as the scale is, as far as like the amount of people that watch us, the amount of people that get glimpses of clips or whatever it is on the internet, I'm I'm okay with that because we said from the very beginning, and I know my heart of hearts, and I know your heart of hearts, and I won't say I know how God works, but I know what discipline leads to. And I know if we can affect one person, the snowball effect can happen. And what's the
Absolutely.
overall mission here? Just one.
If capacity is a battery, then wisdom's your charger.
Hmm.
You can't make the battery bigger, but you can charge it smarter. You can use it wisely, and you can avoid draining it on things that don't matter. Think about that next time you plug that phone into the wall. Where's that
Stop,
time going?
stop getting them corner store charges.
Right?
Stop getting them
Says
cheap
plugs
fixes.
in already at 100. Open up Facebook, down to
Gone.
9%. Start wasting your time. Stop wasting your time. Get a better charger. Get a better charger. Find that wisdom. And then use it on the things you need to use it on. The things that are actually going to enhance, not drain. Again, if you like what you heard, smack that like and subscribe button. If you want to hear more from your Coach Life fam, again, this is just the beginning of this conversation with capacity, because we definitely open this topic back up and probably have a guest on for this one. Hopefully, Coach Wash will be back for this one too, because I'd love to hear his take on capacity in his general sense. So, again, if you like what you heard, smack that button. Till the next time, family, stay positive, my friends.